We're going to be talking a little bit about game design today, and in regards to kind of really basic principles of what makes a game good and also what makes a game bad. I'm sure you guys have all played a variety of games. Hopefully you've played a few bad games, a few games that you regret either buying on Steam through a Steam summer sale or like you found in a Steam bundle and you're like, what is this game? Tried it and found out it was terrible. And you've also, I'm sure, played a few good games, right? Everyone here had those experiences. I want to talk a little bit about those experiences today. I graded the homework, so we'll install Unity in just a second. So what is game design, though? Because game design is kind of a broad term, and this is a game prototyping class. So what does it mean when I talk about game design? Well, game design has a formal definition. It's called the process of creating the content and rules for a game. So you need both. You need to both define the rules of what your game is about. So like Super Mario Brothers, for instance. The rules of Super Mario Brothers is what?
Run and jump.
Run and jump. It's running and jumping, man. And you can jump on things to kill them. You can jump and destroy bricks. You get power-ups. You want to reach the end of level within the time limit. Those are the rules. The content of Mario Brothers are the levels, right? Each level is designed in a unique way using those rules in different combinations to create games. And so every level is essentially a different game because you have underwater levels, you have levels which require you to jump and use jumping platforming elements to get through the level, or maybe dodge enemies or kill enemies. And so game design for Mario is both the rules and the levels. Now, what is the difference between good game design and regular game design? So good game design is all the stuff of regular game design, which is creating the rules and content for a game, but also it's the process of creating goals that the player feels motivated to reach, meaning that you want the player to want something in your game, right? So example, Super Mario Brothers again. Who hasn't played Super Mario Brothers? Any Super Mario Brothers? Okay, so I'll just assume that everyone's played, but I'll just, so in Super Mario Brothers, there's mushrooms, there's power-ups. Sometimes those power-ups try to run away from you, right? Like the stars in Super Mario Brothers. Even mushrooms in Super Mario Brothers move. So that's a goal for you. You know that thing will make you stronger. How do they make it so that you want it? By making you have to chase it, by giving you the threat that you're not going to actually get it. What happens in Super Mario Brothers if you don't catch the star in time? It disappears. You don't get the power-up, which means you don't get to become invulnerable, you don't get to plow through enemies. So they created a goal that you feel motivated to reach because A, it makes you stronger in the game, and B, if you don't get it like right now, you won't get it at all. Right? So that's an example of a goal that player feels motivated to reach. Here's a couple of other examples of goals that players feel motivated to reach. You can tease treasures in your game. Like in Metroid, for instance, there are cases where you can see either a passageway that you can't quite get to yet, or in like Zelda, there's a treasure chest that you can see but you don't know how to reach quite yet. Things that are teased to you ahead of time to give you an incentive as to why you should keep playing through that area. Oh, I know that there's a treasure. I really want that treasure because usually that means I'm going to get something good or a new weapon or a new item that will help me get through the game. So that's an example of something that the player feels motivated to reach. So this is one pinnacle. There's like two important parts. And if you remember nothing else from this class or next class, these two items are basically the sum of what makes good games. Keeping in mind that you need both to really make a good game. But the first one is, I feel like, should be pretty self-explanatory, right? Something that, like, even quest logs are examples of goals that you feel motivated to reach, right? Because you get experience from finishing quests. You think about Skyrim, or even something simple like War Thunder, right? Like, you want to win the level so you can get more money or more experience so you can upgrade your tank, or you can get better tanks, right? The second part of good game design is the process of creating rules that allow meaningful decisions. So we did this exercise as part of your homework. You took the game of War, which had no meaningful decisions for you to make, and I had you guys add choices that the player had to make. And the key here is that they're meaningful decisions. It can't be two choices and one is clearly better than the other. It has to be kind of unclear which is the better decision. That's what makes a good game. When the player is presented with an option and he has to make a choice in his mind, which one is better. So you want the player to make meaningful choices. So an example of this in Metroid, which is another good example, is you come into a room and there's two ways to go, right? Right, or you can go down, maybe three ways. You can go up too. Which way do you go? It kind of completely depends on what weapons you have at the time, how much health you have maybe. Maybe one way looks like it has more enemies than another, so you decide, I'm not going to risk it. I don't feel like I'm going to be able to make it through that area without dying. What about a game like Super Mario Brothers? Well, let's take like Mario 64 or any of the Super Mario Brothers. What are some meaningful decisions that you get to make?
Where you go.
Where you go? How about even simpler than that? How about things like, should I jump on this Goomba or not? Right? Maybe it's not always clear. Maybe I shouldn't jump right now because there's something in the air, right? Or maybe I should wait. Should I wait for him to come closer so it's safer, or should I just go for it? Should I just YOLO and just run through the level as fast as possible, not getting any power-ups? Or should I try to beat the game? It's your choice. That's the thing. There are ways that you can make meaningful decisions in a game even as simple as Mario. So keep that in mind when you guys are making your games today. How do you add something that lets the player make a choice and make that choice not like super obvious? Right? Any questions on this? So here's some other facets of good game design. I put up Hearthstone and Portal 2 because I feel like those are excellent examples of places that the player has to make meaningful choices and there's goals that you want to reach. A couple of things. You want the game to be focused around the player. The player's the guy playing the game. You don't really want it to be focused about other players playing the game. You want the person in front of the computer to feel like they're the ones that are in control, that they are the ones that are getting rewarded. So usually like an MMO or like an FPS, you are the hero, right? How weird would it be in Skyrim if you had to play as the NPC and there's one of the Dragonborn was some other AI that was running around and all you had to do was run a shop while the Dragonborn came in and stole all of your shit, right?
Don't get to stop them from stealing the shit?
No. Can you stop? Can anyone stop the Dragonborn from stealing the shit? Isn't that like
you get to confront him and then the cops get angry.
Yeah, maybe you can do that. That's what you do. That is your game. It's a 10-minute game where you're sitting there waiting. Every time else, you're basically just selling wares from your shop.
Hey, steal it, he'll yell at you and you'll fly across the room.
Yeah, exactly. He'll use one of his dragon shots. So you want it to be about the player. So even in a game about online competitive combat, you want the game to feel like this is all about you, which is an interesting challenge when you come to a game like an MMO where you have millions of people playing a game. How do you make that game feel like that person behind the monitor is the best player in the game, right? How do you make him feel heroic, or how do you make them feel like they are the strongest person? Like any of the Infamous games are great examples of places where it's player-centric. It focuses on having the player feel like they're strong. So these are ways that you can make it even better. Focus on the player. Motivate the player. So again, this goes back to the previous slide about how you motivate the player to reach goals. Give them things that reward them for the choices that they make. Give them rewards for good decisions and make sure that they understand why they failed if they do fail. Anyone play Super Meat Boy or M+, Super Meat Boy? Or like, what are some other examples of games that have that kind of mentality, like Super Meat Boy style? Give me some other ones.
Like Battle Block Theater.
Battle Block Theater is another one. Like games that it's okay to die in, you respawn and you know why you died. That's a good example.
I want to be the guy.
I want to be the guy. That's or I want to be the Bashi, right? Those are great examples of games that motivate the player in one way or another. Usually motivate the player. They try to frustrate the player, to be honest, but they do a lot of weird things into that game that are typically good game design decisions, like randomly killing you without any warning at all. That's the whole game. Another way you can make your game design better is you can put yourself in the player's shoes. This is really hard to do. Like, it's kind of like listening, when you're arguing with someone, trying to put yourself in their shoes and seeing from their perspective in a way. Like when you're designing your game, you really have to think not from your perspective, because you're the guy making it, right? Like you know all the secrets, you know all the proper ways to beat it. You're the one that made it. So you really have to take a step back and imagine what it's like to be someone that knows nothing about your game and really think about it. Well, that's why tutorials exist, right? Like even, as much as you hate tutorials as a player normally, the thing is that the people developing the game don't want to make tutorials, really. Like, we know how to play the game. We're making a tutorial right now for Overwatch. And in that tutorial, I'm learning nothing, right? The tutorial's not for me. It's not even for anyone on our team. It's for people that are playing the game for the first time. We're trying to think from the perspective of someone that's never played a first-person shooter before, that doesn't know anything about Overwatch. And we want to make sure that they feel like they understand the rules of the game, right? A couple other questions you can ask when you're thinking from the player's viewpoint. These are questions that players will ask themselves. Like, what is this game about? Like the first thing they see is like, like Hearthstone. What is that game about? Well, it's, you know, you put down cards and you attack the other guy. How do I play this game? What do I have to do? Is it a mouse and keyboard kind of game? Is it a mouse only kind of game? Do I yell at the screen until it does what I need it to, like Kinect games? Do I dance in front of it? Right? Is there a peripheral that I need to play this game? How do I play? These are things that the player is asking. They might not like literally be standing there like, how do I play? And sometimes they might. Like, have you guys ever played a game where you're like, you try your normal things and then like nothing seems to work? You have like no idea how to play that game? Anyone? Like Kerbal, maybe?
I'm not the best console gamer, so I say this with much embarrassment behind it, but it took me like 2 hours to beat the first boss of Dark Souls.
That's not embarrassing. That's actually average, if not better than average.
It's Dark Souls. Give yourself credit.
I tried Dark Souls. I played for an hour. Couldn't even get to the first boss. Gave it up for like a year and a half. Went back to it and then finally got through and almost beat it on my second playthrough. Because you're asking yourself, what the hell do I do? Like it's brutal, and like they kind of teach you a little bit how to play it, but they purposely throw you in the deep end of the pool.
They teach you how to play by killing you 1,000 times.
Yeah, and like they're like, oh yeah, you can. There's all these little tutorials like, oh, this is how you swing your sword, and oh look, you can roll, and that's it. They don't tell you anything about the fact that a boss is going to one-shot you. So these questions like, how do I play, they're real things like people are going to ask. And so you, as the person making the game, it doesn't matter if you're a game designer or an environment artist or a character artist or a programmer, there are ways you can think about these questions when you're making your content to make your game better for players that are playing it. Another question they'll ask, how do I win your game? Not necessarily always an answer for this, but usually there's a way to win most games. There are some games that are not winnable, that are just playing forever, right? Like SimCity style games that are like just play in an open world. Like Sims are another example of games that kind of are open-ended. But in every other case, it's like, how do I win in Super Mario Brothers? It might not be how do I win the game. It might just be how do I beat this level, right? Super Mario and Mega Man, those games are very good at kind of teaching the player that, okay, you win by moving right. That's essentially what you want to do. You want to kind of keep moving right as much as you can. And then when you can't move right anymore, you kind of fight a boss, and then you have nothing else to do but beat the boss. Why do I want to play? What is the reason why I would want to play this game? It might be because your friends are playing. It might be because the game is free. It might be because there are things in the game that you are feeling like you want to be competitive, right? Competitive games like Counter-Strike, if anyone plays CSGO, or War Thunder, motivate you by wanting you to kill other people so you can get more money, so you can get weapons that you can afford to get more weapons that you can kill other people with.
Get those cases.
Yeah, got to get as many cases as you can. What things do I need to do? So this is kind of a generic question. What things do I need to do? It's more like, what are the goals that I need to accomplish? Kind of like how I mentioned in the previous slide, right? Like two of the things that, if you remember nothing else, like create goals and then allow for meaningful decisions. You also have to explain what those goals are in a way. So they're going to ask, what things do I need to do, which really is, what goals do I have in this game? Okay. what makes these games good? Can you guys read that? Maybe? It says Grand Theft Auto 5, Witcher 3. These are top-down best games of 2015 so far from Metacritic. Grand Theft Auto 5 PC, Witcher 3, Journey, Bloodborne, Witcher 3, Shovel Knight, Mario Kart 8, DLC Pack 2, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask for 3DS, Pillars of Eternity for PC, Dark Souls 2, Bastion, Ori and the Blind Forest, Kerbal Space Program, Ori and the Blind Forest, Steins Gate for Vita, which is weird. That's crazy. Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, Crypt of the Necrodancer, Batman Arkham Knight, and Final Fantasy XIV Heaven's Ward. So let's just start with the top one. Why is Grand Theft Auto 5 up there? Why is that considered a good game?
Because I can kill everyone and continuously kill everyone and just keep killing everyone.
Is that what makes that game fun for you? Okay.
Oh, that's
It's
amazing.
moddable and it's funny.
Okay, so someone said moddable, it's funny, you can kill people. What else?
It doesn't break down every other minute.
Doesn't break down. Okay, so the fact that you can play it.
I was gonna say massive marketing.
What marketing makes that game good?
Well, that's what.
Let's forget there's any
makes
marketing
it
involved.
Super popular.
Okay.
And then
What makes the game good once you
You can
actually
do
start
whatever
playing
you
it?
want.
You can do whatever you want. Anything else?
All the mechanics are really well made.
Well made, so polished.
So if you like to shoot things, you can shoot things. If you like to drive, you can drive really well.
You can fly. You
If
can
you
do
want to be an
things.
asshole, you can just beat up hookers.
Sure.
Maybe reality based.
Reality base has multiplayer in it.
It lets you be a psycho with no consequences.
Yeah. Or you can follow the rules and like drive like a sane person if you want
Be
to.
poor.
So wait, let's just summarize what everyone just said. What makes Grand Theft Auto 5 good? If you had to put it in one word or one sentence.
freedom.
Freedom? You have options, right? It's an open world sandbox game, and it's the best open world sandbox game that has come out. Right? You can do so many different things in that game. And it's good because everyone finds something in that game that they can enjoy doing. Right? It doesn't really matter why you're playing that game, there's probably something there for you, right? If you want to do combat, there's something there for you. If you want to race, there's something there for you. If you want to do heists, you can do that. If you want to fly around in airplanes, you can do that. If you want to just run around rampaging, you can do that too. So I think a thing that makes that game good is that there are goals for everyone. Everyone finds it appealing. Also, the decisions that you make are meaningful. They have a huge impact. All the decisions that you make in that game. Whether you decide to go on a killing spree or whether you decide to go fly a plane, those decisions you make have a lot of impact in the game. Right? Everything you do is fully polished. It's not like, it's kind of funny because the game is kind of realistic in that like cops will come after you if you kill guys in open daylight. And so those decisions that you make revolve around like, do I want that to happen or not? Like there's actually consequences for that, which makes it fun. Let's do one more. Let's pick, who's played Bloodborne or Witcher? Witcher 3.
Witcher 3.
Okay, let's pick Witcher 3 because it's another. Actually, let's stay away from it because it's kind of more sandboxy as well. It's kind of like Grand Theft Auto a little bit, which is weird. Let's pick Mario Kart. Let's just pick Mario Kart. Hopefully, everyone's had a chance or knows what Mario Kart is. Why is Mario Kart a good game? Or maybe why? Maybe someone doesn't think Mario Kart is a good game. Does anyone think Mario Kart is not a good game? It's okay. I mean, you're allowed to have
Diddy
it.
Kong Racing better.
Same idea.
Yeah, I haven't played it since the first Mario Kart. So.
That's fine. So it's still, I mean, you still have an idea. It's pretty much the formula hasn't really
I'm
changed.
Sure it hasn't changed a lot.
But explain to me why you guys think, objectively, why you think Mario Kart is a good game. Why is it on this list?
The competitive, you can be competitive with your friends.
Okay, that's one.
Anyone can play it, like with Bloodborne and Grand Theft Auto and Witcher 3. It might scare some people because it's so complicated.
Sure.
So even everyone from like the 5-year-old to the 80-year-old grandmas play it. Majority of people will have fun.
Yeah.
Not the loser, but most people can have fun.
I'd agree. Yeah, it's very open-ended. It's available for all ages and skill levels, so everyone has a chance to enjoy or participate.
It's great
Right?
to drink too.
What's that?
It's great to drink too.
Sure, it's a good drinking game.
Do you drink to win or do you drink when you lose?
You drink on the side of the road because you can't drink and
Yeah,
drive.
it's
You should not. You need a designated cart driver. I think a big part of it is that everyone feels like they can have fun without even necessarily wanting to win. Like the power-ups are fun to use, right? The maps are very interesting. The characters are appealing. There's a lot of choices you make in that game. It's a racing game at its core, but it's a really accessible racing game. It's probably one of the most accessible racing games. Like the genre itself, like whole kart racing, the combat kart racing genre is a very accessible genre. Okay, anyone else have any personal games that they felt like were really good? Anyone have any ideas? Maybe not from this list, from their history.
Mario Party.
Mario Party? No.
Best way to ruin friendships.
Why is Mario Party not a good game? I would
Best
say.
way to ruin your damn controller.
Okay, so why do you think it's a good game? Let me ask you that. Why do you think it's a good game?
Because I could get a bunch of people playing. We usually have a blast until we all get sideswiped by the friend who's losing.
Okay, so why is that? Like, so I think Mario Party is somewhere. It can be a fun game. It's not really a good game in the traditional aspect because why? Why? Because you actually said it yourself. You get sideswiped by the guy that's losing, right?
Yeah.
Mario Party's built around the concept that it's random. Like you think you have choices that you make, really, like how you go around the board and what items you use and how well you do in the party. But they will throw in elements in that game that's completely random. Like, oh, this person gets a star for getting this many coins, or this person can steal another star from someone else, or where the stars even spawn are random in that game, right? And so even if you are the best Mario Party player in the entire world, you can just straight up lose to a 6-year-old because stars keep spawning in front of them, right? And so it's fun. I don't disagree with you. I think that it's a really fun game. But I don't think it's necessarily a great example of what makes a game good. Because if we go back to the other side, there's goals you want to reach, sure, but there's not really meaningful decisions you can make that let you directly get to that goal. It has a lot of random elements to it.
It's Nintendo's version of Monopoly.
Yeah, it's Monopoly. And Monopoly is like, I don't know, you look like you have something to say. What about Monopoly?
Well, I find it fun just because it's like just economics, just basic.
It's fun.
Sure.
But we had family warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do that. Yes, I can. It's like my mom and my grandma basically having a little feud.
Monopoly is like a classic, I prefer other games, but growing up I played a lot of Monopoly, and as a kid, I really enjoyed it because I felt like, yeah, I could play with money, and I can get money from like my brother who I hate, like he has to give me money, that's like the best thing, and I get all this stacks of money, and people land on my hotel, and I get all their money, I make them go bankrupt. That's awesome, but if you think about it from a game design perspective, there's really very, very few choices you actually make in a game. The optimal way to play that game is to buy properties, right? And how do you buy properties? You buy them by landing on them. But you don't get to pick where you land. You roll dice to see where you land. You have no control over that. So those are examples of kind of like the game of war. There's elements of randomness in it. We're going to talk a little bit more about randomness versus player skill later. How much you incorporate in your game versus how much you decide to leave up to player choice. For now, just realize that there are games out there that have a variety of both random elements to let anyone win and player games that are fully skill-based, right? Think like Counter-Strike Go, for instance, right? The best players in Counter-Strike Go will always beat a player that's new, like just the way that it works, because there's no randomness in the game. Even the way that like an AK-47 spreads its bullets, you think they're random, but they're actually fixed every time. And that was an intentional change by the community. They wanted the spread pattern of bullets in that game to be fixed so that players can predict how they shoot. And one of my friends on Team 4 on Overwatch who plays CSGO a lot, he says the best players in that game predict the spray patterns and they move the gun to compensate for spray patterns because it's the same every time. Isn't that crazy? Like you think something like an AK-47 which shoots like 30 rounds, or 15 rounds a second. I don't know how many rounds a second it fires. Moving the mouse to like compensate for the spread pattern, so every bullet goes down the center of your crosshair. Right? Yeah. So.
Is it still random if you give at any certain point the player multiple random choices to make?
Ultimately, there's player choice there, but ultimately, what is the outcome of one of those choices?
It's random.
Yeah, like Hearthstone's a good example, right? You have cards in your hand. Let's say all of them do something random when you play them. Sure, you try to maximize the effect. Maybe you understand that it's random, and you know that you have the best chance by playing the Mad Bomber versus playing the Matter Bomber, for instance, to kill the opponent creature. You still have player choice there, but ultimately, even if you make the best choices, you might still get screwed over because the randomness ends up being not in your favor. All right, let's talk a little bit about bad games. I have 3 bad games, which I feel like is part of the history lesson portion of the class. What makes these games bad? Anyone know about E.T. for the Atari 2600?
Oh, no, it was buried in the desert.
It was buried in the desert. Yeah, I'm glad you guys know. I was hoping that some of you guys would know it. Hopefully everyone's kind of aware of it.
I never played it.
I never played it either. You should take a chance to play it. I kind of want to play it too. Grab an emulator and see why it's so bad. See what makes that game so bad.
It came out in 2016.
No, I'm sorry.
I have a video.
I'm joking.
I have a video for you guys to watch to hopefully highlight why this might be. Just fix the audio.
Does this have Friday the 13th on it too?
No, it does not. I did not bring Friday the 13th on it. There's 2 other games that are much worse than that.
Yeah, the Angry Video Game Nerd apparently played it, and he said the ET's like it's bad, but
Yeah, I had a link for the Angry Video Game Nerd too, but he actually doesn't think it's as bad. Like, they don't think it's the worst game ever. People like to blame it for the downfall of the video game industry.
Today's game.
I'm not gonna watch the whole thing.
Special. It's probably considered the worst game ever made, in my opinion. Also, in other people's opinions as well. For example, Sean Baby of EGM Magazine writes, "This game was so bad it actually destroyed the life of the Atari 2600."
That's not really true, but
Wikipedia.org writes, "In fact, nearly all who purchased copies of the game sent them back to the company."
so that part is true. 4.5 million copies were buried in the desert out of 5 million.
Atari buried 5 million unsold copies of this game in the New Mexico desert. And I write, "Oh my god, why?" After hearing some of these reviews, you may already know what the game is. If you don't, then sit back and be prepared to find out. Before I do that, I just want to note that some of the sound effects may seem off from the video. Reason being, when I first recorded the game, the sound effects were so low but
Okay, hang on. Can you guys all start copying Zool? Grab Unity 5 and copy it to your desktop because we're going to need it and it takes a while to copy. So go ahead and start grabbing it and while we're watching this video.
my sound recorder could not detect them. Fortunately, the second time around, I managed to get those sound effects, but I had to input them manually to the
Just copy the entire folder to your desktop or to your
But then
folder.
again, for people who actually played the real game, how can you tell if they're off or not? They're so terrible, you don't even know what's going on. Let me give you a sample of what the sound effects are actually like.
I gotta turn it down for this part. The music is quite loud.
That's about it for sounds. There are other sounds, but my audio recorder couldn't pick them up. I tried 6 times, so I don't care anymore. So here's the actual game now. Expand.
It's gonna be really loud, so I'm just turning it down. Perv. He's got the trench coat on. He steals your dots. Alright, so it kind of keeps going on like this. You keep falling into holes a lot. You have to extend your neck to get out of the hole. You might fall into the hole again. Because where you come out of the hole is somewhat random. And so sometimes you fall out of the hole, you come out of the hole, but you go right back immediately into the hole because you're still touching it. Yeah, that basically continues. That's the game. So that's pretty much the entirety of the game. You go around, you collect stuff, and once you collect enough stuff, your spaceship comes down, and then you go back and you fly away. And that's it. The game was made in 5 weeks by one guy. So let's talk a little bit about why people feel like that's a bad game. Because there were a bunch of games on Atari back. And forget about the graphics for a second, because this is Atari era. So keep in mind that's pretty much as good as the graphics were to an extent. Why do you guys think that was considered a bad game?
Because it's not even a game.
What makes it not a game?
There's people don't even know what they're doing.
That's one part of it. So, I mean, the fact that you don't know what you're doing doesn't necessarily mean it's not a game, because Dark Souls is a great example of something where you don't necessarily know what you're doing right away, but it's still technically a game.
Well, there's an aspect of knowing what you're doing. You know you have to get by this thing. You know you have to kill the monster, basically.
Yeah.
You're given a weapon, you're shown a monster.
Right.
This is like...
Let's go back to one of the first slides I showed, right? Goals and meaningful decisions. What goals and meaningful decisions did ET have, right?
It had no goal. It never told you what you were supposed to do. There's no map. It looks like it just leads into the same areas.
So the goals thing was not just a matter of like, hey, like you need goals in your game, but also like goals that the player feels motivated to reach. It's a game. So ET is a game, but it's not a good game. And I feel like it's not a good game because it doesn't satisfy either of those two requirements.
The goal is get shots of the thing that drop you off and come back.
Right. That's the game. You win by collecting all the things. But the reason why it's not a good game is because it has no goals that the player feels motivated to reach. Right? It has goals. It's just, why would I care to pick those up? It's not ever motivating you to do one thing or another. Right? In addition, there aren't any rules in the game that let you make any really meaningful choices. In fact, as you guys saw in the video, sometimes he went up and he ended up in the same screen, then he went up again and he kept on ending up in the same screen over and over again. What kind of rule is that? Like, it's almost like, it's a bug by the way, it's almost like the game doesn't really care where you go, which means that it doesn't really matter what choices you make in a game, which means it's not a good game. Right?
So it was just like a bug that made it.
Yeah.
This is just like a random area would pop up or something like that?
There's a guy that actually took that game and built a patch for it that you can play that fixes all the problems with it, and he says it's actually not a bad game once you fix the problems, because there's issues with like falling into holes, there's issues with where the levels end up, there's like issues with where the enemies spawn to, because sometimes it'll spawn randomly on top of you and pick you up. So those things will make it so that there are rules that allow for meaningful decisions. Right now, ET as it stands is too buggy to make those. Okay, Desert Bus. Anyone know about this game? They run it on charity sometime, like on the, if you guys ever watch Awesome Games Done Quick on Twitch, like they bring in a bunch of speedrunners, or like they bring charity. Desert Bus was part of a bigger game, which was like Penn and Teller's Magic game. It was like on the Sega CD. So why is this game not good? We're about to find out. Oh, I don't have my link. No. I had an awesome video. We're going to watch it now, though. You guys all get to become part of... We're going to watch an Angry Video Game Nerd do this. So Desert Bus was kind of a side mini-game, part of a bigger game. And part of Penn and Teller's. It's So this is the actual game that it's in. You play as Penn and Teller. Kind of like a side-scrolling game.
But then there's Desert Bus. How bad could it be? Let's find out. From Tucson, Arizona to Las Vegas, Nevada. Are we going to Las Vegas to see a Penn and Teller show? I hope. Okay, I'm driving the bus. Come on, bus. Come on, bus. Come on. Okay, slowly but surely. Here we go. This is the game. You drive, drive, and drive. There is nothing out there except road and sand. Occasionally there's a rock or a sign, but that's it. There's no passengers to interact with, no music on the radio, nothing to keep you occupied. The road never turns, there's no other vehicles, there is absolutely nothing. You can open the door with the B button. Basically, it makes a sound effect. That's a little something you can do to entertain yourself. The bus can't go any faster than 45 miles per hour. I don't know why. Maybe Dennis Hopper has a bomb on it or something. So there's no hope of speeding up this test of human attention span. So how long is this trip? It's 360 miles to Las Vegas at 45 miles per hour. That would mean 8 hours. This is a fucking 8-hour game! Whoever needs to take a road trip when you can simulate the whole experience in real time on your Sega CD? What were they thinking? Well, this time we have an answer. Penn and Teller make it clear right before the game starts that the whole joke was to make a game that's just like real life.
There were simulators, games stupefyingly like reality.
I've read in various interviews with Penn that this was in response to all the controversies at the time about all the hyper-violent video games. So, instead of something imaginary and fun, here's the real-life mundane task of driving a fucking bus for 8 hours! Well, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna need several bathroom breaks. Let's pause it. What? The start button blows the horn. There's no pause. You just have to keep driving. I wonder how many people have pissed their pants while playing this. You can't even stop to get something to eat. The manual, and yes, there is a manual, says no, it's not an oversight. Does your life have a pause control? Driving. What happens at the end when you get to Las Vegas? Imagine if after the 8 hours you get to play casino games and have fun, and all of a sudden the game becomes awesome. Well, I looked into it. You want to know what happens? You get a point. A point. 1 fucking point! And then you gotta drive all the way back! Every 8 hours a point! Those are the slowest points in video game history! Did Penn and Teller really make this game, or did Andy Warhol rise from the dead? Yeah, you know the Andy Warhol film Empire? It's an 8-hour movie that's nothing but a shot of the Empire State Building. Yeah. Who could ever sit through this? Well, there was going to be prizes. Penn and Teller were actually planning to have a desert bus contest. You send in your score, and the grand prize was a trip on an actual bus from Tucson to Las Vegas. But you'll get to see a show and have a 4-night stay at Bowie's. That only begs the question, who has the high score in Desert Bus? Well, apparently, the highest you can get is 99, which would mean putting in 792 hours, or 33 days of continuous gameplay. And speaking of long hours, I just found out there's a group who do an annual marathon of the game for charity. It's called Desert Bus for Hope, and it's been very successful in raising money for children.
You can
so
watch
at least something good has come of this game. They must be some serious troopers. I can't sit through 10 minutes of this shit. I've heard that every once in a while, a bug will splat on your windshield. I'd be happy just to see that. I'm suffering from so much sensory deprivation that anything to break up the monotony would be amazing. If a bug came and splat on this windshield, that would blow my fucking mind. But I'll never have the patience to get that far. I'll never even get a single point. Just gotta hold your thumb on this button for so long. Wait. Oh! How do you like that trick, Penn and Teller? If you can't beat the game, let the game beat itself.
Wait for it.
What? What the fuck? It's stuck. The bus is stuck in the sand. They made the bus veer to the right on purpose. Oh, they thought of everything. God damn you, Penn and Teller. You have to sit here and drive the bus, just like in real life. And real life fucking sucks. Now I'm getting towed. Oh boy. The towing is in real time also. So if you've driven 7 hours, does it take 7 hours for the game to start over? This is the most sadistic thing ever. There's no fun factor whatsoever. This makes...
All right. So that's Desert Bus. So that's one of the worst games of all time. So why is that game not good? Hopefully this one's easy.
You don't do anything.
Yeah, well, classified, you don't make any meaningful decisions, right? You're veering slightly to the right, so every so often you hit left. That is a decision you make when you hit left. It's there's not really any strategy to it. There's not really any good way to play this game. There's also no goals that you feel motivated to reach. You're going to Vegas, that's a goal. You don't feel motivated to reach it at all.
Don't feel motivated to drive the 8 hours.
Yeah. This is the last one, Big Rigs Over the Road Racing. Anyone know what this game is already? It's a good game to know because the guy that was in charge of making this game is still trying to make games today. And all of his games are really, really kind of sketchy. So, Big Rigs Over the Road Racing, I'm not sure what exactly went wrong with this. It's basically like, imagine that someone spent maybe like 2 weeks on a game and was told, ship it, this is what you get. They never got a chance to actually put in any features that they wanted. And the gameplay.
Oh, it is that one. We're just like,
I can change and I will change.
This is PewDiePie playing it. I won't watch the whole thing, or maybe I will. We'll see.
This is so bad. How's it going? My name is As you can see, I'm in Italy. I'm gonna stay here a few days, but I wanted to make a video anyway. You bro sent me a game called Big Rigs, which I thought first was a porno, but apparently it's a game. It's famous for being the best game ever made. And by best game, I mean, of course, the shittiest game ever made. Let's play! Big Rigs! Over the Road Racing. What do we got? Mega Own, Thunderbolt, Sunrise version 12. The Mega 1. Oh, that's it. I thought it was Mega Own. The loading screen just takes forever. It's like, how much? What do you need to load? Honestly. Come on. Oh. Why is, okay. I don't know how to accelerate. Oh, good. That's what I wanted to do. Holy shit, it's fast as hell. I guess we're going backwards then. 20 seconds. And we already broke the game. Can I go? Oh, what the? Where are you going? What are you doing? Okay. I think this is a finished product. Pretty much. I don't know where I'm going. Adventure! Somewhere. I think we're going back. Here we are. Yes! Nailed it. Taking a little shortcut. Doesn't matter. There we are. Finished! Nailed it! Yeah! That was a checkpoint. God damn it. Can I go here? Oh, I go through it. Yes, of course. This seems pretty realistic. Let's jump off the cliff. Hell yeah! What? Oh, okay. Nailed it. Nailed it. Why can't all games be like this? This is better than all the Sonic racing games. This is like when I play horror games. I just hug the walls. Let's block this bitch. I need to stop. What am I doing? I gotta win. Come on. Why is that lamppost? Where did he go? He just became invisible. Oh. Of course. Why would you go on the bridge when you can go through the bridge? Why would you go around the fountain when you can when you can go through it? This is so intense. Oh no, he's winning. Better use my special move, wall riding. There's just no way I can go above 80. Finished. Good enough for me. Just a small time night ride. Let's go for
we don't need to watch the rest of that.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You guys can watch it on your own time. That game is interesting because I feel like out of the three, it's probably the most complete, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the most recent one, and it's a shame that something like that could get released and people could pay money for it. How shitty would you feel if you spent money on the game based on the advertising that they had? 18 wheels of thunder and all the lightning in the background.
Well, it kind of was thunderous. You just kept going.
I like there's a cop car in the front of the cover. There's no cops in the game.
Yeah.
There's no police in the game. You definitely go for the road, though. So, again, what part of it makes it not a good game? Based on whether you have goals or meaningful decisions that you have to make. Which one of those two does not fulfill?
Any goals you had are moot.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to win. How do you win? Going through shit and writing on the wall.
Something that they didn't show was that there's no way for you to lose that game. There's an AI that drives. He never crosses the finish line, so you never lose. You can literally take 17 hours. You could play Desert Bus and get a point and still win in Big Rigs Over the Road Racing because there's no consequence for it, right? There's also no meaningful decisions that you can make, really. There's like, what choice do you have? You have no collision with objects. A big part of racing games is navigating the course and not colliding with the environment, right?
So the guy that made that's still trying to make games?
Yeah, it's kind of a shame. Yeah, he actually I think started a Kickstarter too, and he has some games on Steam. Just keep in mind if you ever see, I think in Stellar Stone there was one guy that was in charge of it. He was the guy that was pushing for the creation of this game, and it ended up being pretty bad. I don't remember his name though. But if you ever hear Big Rigs Over the Road Racing, or like, hey, this is the guy responsible for Big Rigs Over the Road Racing, keep that in mind.
Out of the 3 game designers, there's 3 of them. Or 2, actually.
I want to talk briefly about, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to finish this and then I'll give you guys a break. And you guys can take some time. I'll power through this. So a couple things that game design is not, briefly. There are things that you might consider game design. Programming and art are not game design specifically. Those are separate disciplines. Game design is, again, the process of creating rules and content for a game, but making art by itself is just making the content, and making programming by itself can just sometimes be just making the rules. And sometimes you can make content too. I'm not saying that people that are programmers can't be game designers or vice versa, or people that are artists can't be game designers. I'm just saying that the term game design is not equal to programming, or the term game design is not equal to art. Does that make sense? I'm not saying anything about roles or anything. I feel like everyone has a game designer role at Blizzard, like literally everyone, no matter what their role is. So I feel like it's transcended across disciplines. It's just when you say, I'm going to do the game design for a game, it's a very specific thing that you're going to do. Game design goes beyond technology. Again, people that have taken MRICS classes or ever made any, you guys have all made games using decks of cards. You've not use really any technology for that beyond maybe Microsoft Word. You don't have to have a game controller. The game of Go, which is one of my favorite games, is a game that has a ton of great game design for a very, very simple rule set, and it's been around for thousands of years. A few types of design that are in games. World design, these are ways that you can design. So when you take the idea of creating meaningful goals and goals the player feels motivated to reach and meaningful decisions, world design is one of them. You're basically creating the world in which you're making those decisions. So example is Dark Souls. So Dark Souls, part of the game is designing the world that the game lives in. You have the concept in Dark Souls that you are undead and you become a human. And so what does that even mean? Well, that means in the world there are zombies and there's humans, and there's also kind of weird creatures, giants and magic and swords and armor and cool things to do all those things with. System design. This is actually the practice of creating the, in case of like Bayonetta, this is actually creating the mechanics that revolve around the game. So Bayonetta systems involve the melee system, the weapon system, the witch time system, the combo system. Content design includes creating the actual content that makes up the game. So examples would be like in League of Legends, the various items and the heroes. In Skyrim would be the various weapons, and War Thunder would be tanks and planes. Right. Design when it comes to writing includes usually dialogue trees. Your choices that you make as part of the design for writing the game maybe affects the ending, or maybe affects who joins your party. Mass Effect is well known for that, where you pick various decisions. Even Skyrim does this. Like the choices that you make in the dialogue tree affects what happens in the game, right? So the writing affects that. What's that?
Witcher 3 as well.
Oh yeah, that's another good example. Yeah, all the Witchers have really important choices that you make when you pick your dialogue, right? Anytime you have to stop and think and read the choices, you're making a decision. That's good game design, right?
Fallout, amazing.
Fallout again, yeah. Anything from Bethesda, pretty much. Level design is another good example of a way that you can have mechanics. Portal and Portal 2 are great examples of games that have really strong level design. They have rather simple mechanics. In Portal 1, you have a portal gun, and sometimes you have jump pads, but most of the game revolves around good level design. User interface design, so this can also have a big part of your game. So I brought up League of Legends, but like the minimap is a good example of something that affects gameplay. Right, you can interact with the minimap, you can tell your players to go to a specific location. You can warn your teammates of danger in this game by clicking on the minimap. Yeah, that's old.
A week old.
So we talked about what a game design is. What is a game? This is a screenshot from BlizzCon. I'm like standing right over there while playing Overwatch. A game is an activity with rules. It's a form of play, like often, but not always, involving some kind of conflict, either with like other players or sometimes against AI. It doesn't always have randomness or luck, but sometimes they do. Most games have goals, like have an end game that you want to reach. Some don't, like SimCity and Sims. They don't really have a way to beat the game. Most games have places where the games start and where the game ends, like very clear. Like you Fallout, you pick a character, you customize it, you beat the game, right? Some games don't, like World of Warcraft or any MMO. You kind of pick a character, but you kind of keep playing that game. Sometimes you make another new character. Sometimes you make multiple characters. There's no way to really beat World of Warcraft. You can always play that character and do more stuff. D&D is another good example. There's not really an end to playing a D&D campaign. So you might end the campaign for other reasons, but not for within the game, the rules. And most games involve decision making on the part of the player, but some games, like children's games like War or Chutes and Ladders, Candyland, they don't have decisions that you make. And a video game is just a game that uses a digital screen in a way, right? So example of Sims, D&D. What is not a game? So example of something that's not a game, a simulator. Have you guys ever been to like a flight simulator, like a real flight simulator, like you sit in a cockpit? They're pretty cool.
They're fun.
Yeah. they're fun, but they're not games, right? A simulator is a way to be interactive with something that simulates like real life in some cases, like in the case of Flight Simulator. There's a place up in Anaheim you can be in a fighter jet and you can like duel other people. That's more of a game, but like flight simulators for like training pilots. It's fun, or if you sit in it, it's fun just because all these things simulate what actually is in the real cockpit, right? But they don't have to be fun. That's the key. Simulators don't have to be fun. They just have to simulate something. They have to mimic something that's in real life.
You do a lot of simulators in the military.
Oh yeah, I used to work for a company that did military simulations as well, and a lot of those simulations are not fun. They're not meant to be fun. They're meant to be train you to react to a situation that you might not be accustomed to, learn how people react when you're talking to them, like gestures, and teach you how to talk in a way that's not disrespectful in that culture. Things like that. They're not fun, but they're simulators, right? You could have something that simulates something and is fun at the same time, like SimCity and Dwarf Fortress. Like SimCity simulates you being like a city constructor, but you can have fun. City Skyline is another example. Sims is another great simulation of real life, which is interesting, but people play it because it has rules and goals. Another thing that's not a game, contests. So this is the World Strongman contest. That's a lot of weight. I don't know if they make that big to make it seem like it's heavier, but I'm sure that's like super heavy. Like I think that's like 1,000 pounds or something ridiculous.
I'm guessing it's to balance it. So I've never done this, but I've done some weightlifting, and every once in a while something would fall off.
No, they're rubber weights. It's for safety.
Yeah, but also like they're probably also really heavy.
Oh, they're heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, because the bar is bending.
They're a way to minimize accident.
Like that's a thick bar, and that bar is bending a lot. So a contest, right? Like all games are contests in a way. Like you're either competing with the game or against other players. But not all contests are games. Like this, I don't think he thinks he's playing a game right now. He's in a contest against other people, right? I think the issue is that while these contests are competitive, they don't really require meaningful decisions. That's the key. He's not making really any meaningful decisions. He's lifting as a result of his hard work and training. He's basically doing the best that he can to lift that weight. But he's not making a decision like, well, he might be making small decisions like how to plant his feet, but really what he's trying to do is beat the other people, like lift more weights than the other people. That is what he's trying to do. That's the ultimate goal he's trying to reach. Like, it's how much weight can you lift, right? Right, another thing that's not technically a game, puzzles. So puzzles, by its inherent nature, is another word for a problem that you have to solve, right? Like a crossword puzzle or a jigsaw puzzle. The thing about puzzles is that they always have one correct solution. Like a jigsaw puzzle, there's one way to solve that specific jigsaw puzzle. There's no other configuration that works for that jigsaw puzzle. There's always exceptions to the rule. Again, there's like puzzles that you can like solve in different ways. Like you can combine them or you flip them over, and there's ways you can combine it. But in most cases, puzzles are solved. There's one correct answer. Anything that's like a game that you have to like solve, there's like a sliding car puzzle. There's one solution to that. You get the car out, right? Some games can also be solved, actually. Did you guys know that checkers has been solved by computers? Which means that if you ever play a game of checkers against a computer that solved it, it literally knows from that move all the moves it has to make to win from the very first move you make, no matter what, either win or draw. There's no element of unknown. Like normally in checkers you make a move, literally the computer will think millions of moves ahead if it needs to. And ultimately there's one case where it'll win and it'll pick that. And that's it. That's the case that happens. Right, so puzzles, they don't really have decision making, really. I would argue that like a jigsaw puzzle really is just a matter of visually recognizing where a piece goes, not necessarily making a decision whether a piece goes here or here, more just being able to decide that, hey, this piece only fits here, right? You're not making a choice whether it should fit here in this corner or it should go over here. It's not really a choice. There's one right answer for that. Okay. Any questions? Okay, those are not games, right? Okay, we're going to do Unity. So Actually, let's do this after break. Why don't you guys go on break for now? Come back at 10. We'll pick up Unity. We'll go over lab, and then we'll finish up the class.